I would like to welcome you, Michelle. So, how are you doing today?
I'm great, other than it's a rainy day here on the East Coast. But, otherwise, I'm great. I'm feeling good, and I'm really excited, Gustavo, for this webinar to be sharing my passion of yoga, mind and body, wellness, and movement with you and so many others. So, thank you, everyone, for joining, being part of this first live event, and many more to come. So as Gustavo said, this is, going to be more focused on introductory, perhaps, and maybe some reminders for those of you that are more experienced with yoga. But trust and know that we will get to a lot of different types of movement base using props and different types of yoga. So if this is not necessarily going to be a full yoga class type of demonstration here today, but we are getting to that for sure. So stay tuned and in touch. So again, I'm really so excited. Thank you for all the different people here, whether you're coming from the plant-based nutrition, ultimate weight loss, or from my yoga and classes that you attend. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. So I'm very excited.
Very good. Well, thank you, Michelle. When I was talking with you a few weeks ago, very interesting your story. We all have a story, and people love to hear stories. So, just tell us a little bit about where you come from um, as a professional, and how just how you got to this point where you're right now. Very interesting.
Well, thank you. No, and it is seems interesting. People think maybe I just woke up one day, and maybe that does happen to some people, and say I'm just flipping the switch and going into a different career or profession. But it was quite a long journey. I actually am an attorney by education, a lawyer, and I practiced law for about 20 years, almost 20 years. And I about 6, 7 years ago, at some point, as much as I enjoyed practicing law and found it very thrilling, and I practice mainly in the immigration law area, a very hot topic now here in the United States, and found it very fulfilling. But I knew at some point that I wasn't going to maybe do that for the next 10, 20, 30 years. That I was just finding and trying to evolve in what that could be for me. And actually, while I was a full-time lawyer, practicing law, I did go through yoga teacher certification, and I really had no idea if I was going to do that. And this is about 8 years ago. Prior to that, I was also I was teaching as a group fitness instructor in boot camps and things like that. A friend of mine, I lived in Boston at the time, and she owned a boot camp company. So I would go off, help her in the morning as a boot camp instructor, and then go off to my lawyer day job for 8, 10, 12 hours or so. And I always was a physically fit person, as far as active. That not necessarily being at an ideal weight, though. So I did struggle with weight loss. So I want many of you know, if that's something you struggle with, I struggled with that too. At one point, I was about 50 pounds overweight. So that's another story, and you can read about that, or I'll share that further in another time. But certainly, movement has been a huge part of my life, whether heavier than I am now or not. So it helps stabilize the brain, reduces stress in the body. And even though at one point, 10 years ago or longer, at one point I was running marathons, it was causing a lot of stress on my body. So much so that I did have fractured my foot from running. And I please don't misunderstand me. I love all forms of modalities of running and movement, and think there's great cross training. But yoga is really just my passion, my love, for calming the body and the mind and creating and bringing those two together, the union of the two. So after 6, 7 years, really just being open to what the possibilities may be in my life, and ultimately using my yoga teacher's yoga certification, I was able to make that leap and just decided I'm going to, after a lot of soul searching and personal growth, working with professional coaches, health coaches, business coaches, things like that, and really just being open to what the options are. So I'm not practicing law at all. At some point, there was a bridge between, I actually was teaching law at a college and starting to develop my wellness business here as a wellness professional. So in addition to mainly practicing yoga and teaching yoga, private and group classes, I also do other wellness um, type of work within companies, and I feel like I have people identify with me because I did work in the corporate world for close to 20 years. So it is something that I can truly identify with people sitting behind a desk or having to work within an office and the confines of that. So there's oftentimes I do chair yoga at environments, and we'll be offering chair yoga here in future events as well. So that's the hopefully quick and short of it, but there's a lot of work a lot that I can further share. So please stay tuned, and I'll continue to share some of that journey, because some of you may be on that journey as well, as trying to maybe figuring out what else it is in your life that creates a passion and desire for you.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That's always interesting to see how people have found this way of living and this way of eating and all the benefits that it brings. Michele, tell us where, like someone that, okay, so I could be kind of a guinea pig because I have been saying that I wanted to start doing yoga for now, like at least a year. I have never done it. So this would be a question that it could come from me or anybody else. Where do I go to take my first yoga class, and then what is the best type of class to take as a total beginner?
No, those are great questions, and certainly those are some of the questions that people are most curious about and have written in about. So that is a very common question. Where do I go? Now, where do you go? Certainly yoga scenes, we see it in the news. We see it buying, on infomercials. It's on the internet. And it's really become a very popular trend, hot yoga, things like that, and what I suggest, having studied and practiced, actually, believe it or not, I actually have been practicing yoga even way back over 20 years ago when I was in college. So even though I've become a certified teacher approximately 8 years ago and going through advanced training now with different levels of certification, going for your first class can be intimidating. So I would look for one that either is actually labeled beginner, or maybe you find a series at a yoga studio that says a beginner workshop. As far as maybe it's 3, 4, 8 weeks, 6 weeks long, and that's going to give you an overall broad base of really learning the basic postures and what have you. Otherwise, I would say, certainly there's a lot on the internet and buying DVDs, and that's an option. But I feel, even if you feel like you're an introvert or you're shy, being with a community, being with a live teacher can really help you. So one, yoga studios, meaning just yoga dedicated facilities, can be an option. But looking for that gentle level class, restorative, where they use a lot of props, beginner level or level 1. If you've never taken a class before, be careful of something that says all levels. And I do teach all levels, and you will see probably a lot of schedules that say all levels because there is a broad base involved. But know that if you do go to an all levels class, maybe be mindful in telling the teacher this is your first class, and that be know, I should say, know that you do not have to do every single option that's given to you. And that's what I usually offer in all levels. I'll offer, here's more of what we'll start out with if you want to take it to this level, and move on. Another really good place, don't be shy of, is maybe your local gym. If you belong to a YMCA, those can be really great places. I teach at a YMCA in addition to yoga studios and specialized places. So having a gym, you may already be opening yourself up to availability. And usually there'll be props there, and don't worry about things that you may be looking for. And we'll talk a little bit about props and maybe things to use or have available. But I would say yoga studios and community is very good. You don't want to shy away from that. Maybe if you're not even sure, if you don't belong to a gym that offers yoga, is that maybe you go on to those sites such as Living Social, Groupon, the discounted ones, and know that you can get a discount without spending a lot of money to try a few classes. And that can be a good source. I also encourage you, don't let one class, two classes, three classes be maybe the determining factor. It may take a little while to connect with the teacher or some class that you identify with. So that is my suggestion. Stay in community, whether it's a gym, a YMCA, or a dedicated yoga studio, and look for level 1, beginner, gentle.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yes. Yes, that can be intimidating. I know. And another question that I know people have, and that I even have, because people say, well, you should do yoga. And so the question is, why should I do yoga? What are the benefits? Can you just tell us a little bit about why?
The why, right? So why is
Yeah.
really what inspires us. I do work with a lot of folks that have certain physical limitations, as well as even people that have anxiety, depression, or even if you're feeling, different changes in the season. Here in the East Coast, sometimes it doesn't feel like winter here in November with the different temperatures we've been having, but there's this, seasonal affective disorder with, the lack of sun at certain times of the year. So really, one, for calming benefits, linking mind and body. So really breath. I liken the practice of yoga to meditative movement, to actually almost a mantra that may be something that you using the breath, because the breath is a very physical part of the practice. So you really are taking the time to lengthen, expand your lungs, finding the breath, which automatically calms the central nervous system down, reduces stress in the body. When you can take in more oxygen into your body, the more that it sends a message to the brain to be calm and relaxed. And who doesn't want to be calm and relaxed? I grew up with a lot of New Yorkers who I love dear to my heart. My family is, my mother is. But, there can be, in certain personalities, reactive personalities, or when we're under stress. And having the ability to have some of these tools that just start becoming a part of who you are and what you are, and how you respond versus react to situations. So there's this whole mental state of calming the brain down, calming the system down, the central nervous system, to not be in this fight or flight syndrome when we're under such a great amount of stress. The other is certainly the physical benefits, getting the physical postural elements of alignment within the body, keeping the body lengthened, long, flexible. We want to be able to live long, healthy lives, to be able to tie our shoes, to be able to catch ourselves. Oftentimes, we have heard in our certain groups that we're in about, the geriatric community, that 10,000 deaths occur a year from falling. we want to be, and I have one of my clients who's 70 years old that she absolutely attributes what we've been doing, what we've been working with, that she was able to catch herself from a fall just from a little, trip in the sidewalk that had a heightened level because of strengthening her balance skills. So it's for balance, it's for flexibility, and certainly, believe it or not, it's for strength too. So you can build a lot of strength and muscle between different types of yoga. So it has all these great combinations, because often people do ask me, well, what do you do? What do you do to create muscle strength? A lot of it is my own functional strength and not using heavy weights. Again, not that I'm adverse to that, but I think a lot of cross training is very good to get, for all the amount of time that someone may spend running and lifting weights, you ideally are spending that amount of time stretching in a mind-based type of movement focus as well.
You mentioned a few minutes ago, something about being flexible, and I know that a lot of people have that as a concern. Some people may think they're not flexible, or maybe they're not. So, how if someone thinks that they're not flexible, will they be able to still do yoga?
I will tell you. That's why they should be coming. The most, and it doesn't matter. Again, some people, that's where we really have to release our focus from, well, when am I going to get there? When is it going to arrive for me? Because that day may not arrive. And it's learning to be detached from that, of getting to, even myself, sometimes if I'm working on a posture, how long is it going to take me to get there? It's detaching from that, being calm in the breath, being calm in what I'm doing. And that's really when, wow, whether it's a month from now or a year from now, because there's different things from a year ago to what I can do now that are completely different. And we'll be posting things about that too. But when people say to me, oh, I'll come to yoga when I'm more flexible. No. You come now. That is the time. Don't ever feel limited. And that really goes for anything that you feel in life, because there's always an option. There is always an option to find somebody's movement, and that's the thing about yoga as well, training the mind, not worrying, what is the teacher doing, bending all the way over, touching her nose to her knee, or him, or your neighbor, what they're doing on their mat. And it's really being focused, being in the present, that focuses one on what am I doing, what am I capable of, and really finding that compassion and kindness to ourselves. So the more that actually we can relax into the body and the breath, flexibility will follow. And one of the things that I love the most is saying that flexibility begins with the breath. So if somebody's not breathing, or these shortened breaths, even myself, my teacher said, watch the shortened breaths, because that breathing way up into the chest and these shortened hurried breaths is going to reduce the amount of flexibility that one has. So if one is not flexible, please, my friends, don't let that limit you in attending or starting your yoga practice. That is why you have to come, to find that space in the body and the mind, and finding it very freeing, using the breath to connect the two together.
Right. Yeah. And tell us, so someone that just starts, maybe never taken a class, or maybe once or twice, how often do you think it per week? How many times a week it would be good to attend the yoga class? And number two, what should someone wear for their first class or bring?
Those are really good questions, and for everyone that forwarded them, thank you. Because it is, people, it could be very, again, overwhelming. All these props, I see all these things. What do I bring? What do I do? Ideally for a first timer, I recommend at least 2 times a week. If 3 times, great. but I completely understand if, I understand time commitment. Obviously, I also say the best practice or the worst practice is the one that you don't do. So if it's only once a week, although, the benefits are not going to be seen if somebody's practicing just once a week and then they're doing, hundreds of hours a week sitting in a chair, driving and doing whatever else they're doing, if they're not doing any other movement in between. Now, for a yoga practice, I would say at least 2 times a week. If you're complementing, like I was doing many years ago when I was running actively and I was using yoga as a form of stretch, I still try to do maybe a more basic class at least 2 times a week for the stretching benefits and the mind benefits and calming. Whether it was a restorative, a gentle class, and maybe more of like a level 1 beginner class. And that's before I became much more active practitioner. But I would say 1 to 2 classes. I teach corporate yoga in companies, and I teach twice a week to about the same group for the past 4 years. And I will tell you, from the people that have been involved for 4 years, I cannot tell you the remarkable changes I have seen from 4 years ago to today. That their bodies have opened, their minds have expanded, they're able to step away from their desks. So again, it really creates this mind-body connection of opening and freeing yourself up to really what's possible. So 2 times a week, 3 times. I mean, there are challenges, especially, and I don't want you to wait till the first of the year, but start now, especially during the holidays, when this can be a very stressful time of the year. Start now. Do not wait. But I do notice that it seems like the first of the year seems to be, 30 days, 30, yoga. And that doesn't have to be stressful yoga. If you feel like it's not working for you, something that you're doing in class, stop what you're doing and just have a seat or just take a rest on your mat. So it just means being there, being committed, and doing what you can. So I would say at least 2 times a week, maybe 3 if you can, if you're really, want to get the benefits. And they don't have to be all the same, like a vigorous class. It could be a gentle, calming class, maybe at the end of the work week or day. It could be, more of a stretching class, on one day. So you can pick and choose these things, and look for the descriptions. And again, I'm happy to answer more of these questions. As far as clothing, so I'm wearing a t-shirt, and it's pretty comfortable. It's stretchy. And, I'm sure many of you see stretchy pants or yoga pants. I mean, they don't have to be yoga pants. They, a lot of these different type of comfortable pants, but something that you can move in. It should be loose and movable, but not too loose that, it has really wide bottoms that maybe you're going to get caught somewhere or that you're going to trip over. So something maybe that has nice fabric that can comfortably, that you can move in and that's breathable. So you don't have to go out and buy a whole new wardrobe. And believe it or not, a lot of discounted stores, I mean, certainly, yes, there are the higher end athletic wear that's very fancy and nice. Maybe some of us have heard of those fancy brands, and I won't necessarily name them, but you know who they are. But there's also a lot of discounted stores that you're aware of as well. Even the big box discount stores where there's food and clothing. So a lot of places that you can go to. And again, I am happy to name names, but just for the purpose of this initial video. But comfortable clothes, a t-shirt, a racerback shirt, or a tank top, and something, even your undergarments, to be able to comfortably move in. Women, different types of sports bras. You don't really want something really that's digging into you. Something that is comfortable, that you can lift your arms up and move your arms around, that it's not too confining or constricting. And something maybe with an expandable waist that you can move the body in freely. But having that ability to move, that has some that allows you to move around. You don't want to wear tight and constricted clothing to a movement-based class. And that's probably for any type of class. You can wear shorts as well, unless the class specifically says don't. I
No.
also would suggest maybe bringing socks, not to wear them in class, but maybe a longer sleeve type of item to put on over,
Right.
because maybe as you're starting class or ending class, the body may feel a little cool. So you may want to put those things on towards the end when you're taking your final resting pose, perhaps. And that's the most important part of class. So don't ever leave class early without taking that. Even if you have to leave early, make sure you set that
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, Michelle, why don't we do one more question, and then, if you don't mind, maybe you can show us uh, something that we can do, something practical. How about that? You could, if you could tell us, and I know we're going to do more webinars, so we're going to have more questions that people ask. But could you give us, in general, I know there are a lot of different styles of yoga, but just give us an overview of what are those different styles.
So I am just going to name a few, but as Gustavo said, there are so many, and we're going to do a lot of them, sharing them with you as we go through different webinars here um, and videos. So the most common is probably hatha yoga, and that has been. And again, I can put these together as in a resource as well. So I'm just going to briefly say hatha is probably where most lineages. So just think of like hatha at the top level and different lineages then forming different types of yoga from there. Hatha, I would recommend if you see a hatha yoga class, that is probably good for a beginner. And it does include breath, movement, um, focusing on one posture at a time. So that is the type of class that I think is really great for beginners. And again, most yoga stems from that. They just created their own variations on it. Some of you may have heard of vinyasa. Vinyasa is flowing from one posture to the next. It's a constant like movement of a practice, as well as power yoga. Power yoga is also sometimes more movement, vinyasa based, flowing from one posture. It's active and it's power, just as it sounds, power or vinyasa. They're going to keep moving. There can be a little bit more of elevated heart rate and just linking one breath, one movement together. Okay. Um, the other ones are known as Iyengar, and Iyengar is named after the person who introduced that method, BKS Iyengar. And Iyengar is a very alignment focused, uses a lot of props that you can see around me, even chairs. So it's very focused and alignment based. So you will hold the postures for a lengthened period of time, perhaps using a chair, using straps, using a block, using a number of different things. My passion currently, I'm studying advanced training, is Ashtanga, and it comes from the lineage 8 limbs of the method. And I just want to let you know, in Sanskrit, Ashtanga is translated as the 8 limb path, and it involves a very physically demanding practice. So even though I do a lot of restorative and yin, and I'll share with that, it is really a very strong, powerful practice, very energetic. A lot of people liken it to, looks like you're doing gymnastics or what have you. Doesn't mean you have to be able to do those moves. I can't do all the moves in the method I'm currently doing my advanced training, but I've really taken to it. And that's the thing. You find the one that you are passionate about. And I still teach a lot of different forms of yoga. I have a lot of different training. There's chair yoga, and we'll have a very focused practice on just chair yoga alone, because that can be awesome to take that to your desk, not only if you have physical limitations. It could be a great prop. Yin yoga is where you hold a certain posture. Love it. I incorporate that into my practice at least once a week, if not just a little bit, even every day, just doing one posture. A yin yoga is holding a posture, getting into a deeper form of the body, releasing. So whether that's holding the posture, mostly done on your mat for 30 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, even up to 7 minutes. So some classes in restorative and yin, which are some of my favorites, certainly at the end of the day or even in the morning to get my body a little bit cultivated and ready for a more energetic practice, will be a yin type of yoga class. And then there's, for example, prenatal, people maybe who are pregnant. And there are many people I've worked with right up until the day of giving birth that practice yoga. So there are a lot of different options out there. I'll put together a list as a resource of different types of yoga. And if you have questions on them, reach out.
Very good. Very good. Well, Michele, why don't we, since we have about 20 minutes or so before we need to log off here, what would you like to show us?
Okay, so I will show you some typical movements, and I'll show you depending on the time, because I want to show some variations as well. So I am going to just come off of what I'm sitting on, and this is really nice, a blanket to sit on to lift the hips up if you're sitting on the floor, so you're not firmly against a mat here, okay? And that helps lengthen the spine, or sitting up on a block is also very helpful. But we'll talk more about props in a later episode. And also, don't feel you have to rush out and buy anything. I'll put together a list, and then we can go from there as far as what are the most important things, perhaps the mat. So what I like to share, and I'm just going to move some things around here, not causing too much commotion, is a half sun salutation. And this links breath and movement together. We'll work on the full sun salutation in the future. So I'm just going to stand up and move this a little further away. Good. Whoops. All right. Not creating too much noise here. Oh. All right. 1 second, folks.
It's okay. Take your time.
I have to see the camera here, so
Yeah.
I get enough of me in here. But just want to make sure you can see me fully. So again, this is our first live, so bear with us, everyone, as I move this table. And I know that trying to be professional to turn off the screen, but I just want to make sure we get enough of the mat and enough that you can see me or get the sense. And as we're learning, it's a learning experience. So I'm not going to use the chair right now, but a half sun salutation is linking breath and movement together. All right, so I am going to tilt this a little bit more. And this is something I recommend maybe just doing, a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 times each morning, or up to 5. Just starting to get the body moving and warmed up here for your day. And it's really, they call it a sun salutation. You can do it in the evening, but it is something where you're really welcoming the day. So on your inhale, so your feet can be right underneath your hips, all 10 toes face forward. You want to keep your joints aligned as much as possible, meaning the shoulders, the hips, the knees, the feet. So you're standing. This is a posture itself, Tadasana or Samastitihi, standing at attention, right? Breathing, finding the feet rooted down, feeling rooted and grounded here. So this is a posture, right? Keeping your joints aligned. And from here, you start into Tadasana, mountain pose, Samastitihi. Inhale, arms can reach up, looking up if you can, bringing your palms together, look up at your thumbs. And exhale, fold over the legs any amount, even if you have to bend your knees deeply. Inhale, hands can slide up the front of your leg, up to your knees, or even up to your thighs. Pulling your chest forward, gazes forward, pull the belly in. Imagine you had a tray on your back, And then you're going to exhale, trying to fold as much as you can. If you can straighten your legs, do so. Otherwise, just keep your knees bent. And then inhale, whether your arms come out in front of you or sweeping your arms up at the side. Some people like to sweep them up. And exhale, arms down by your side. So I'm going to just demo a little quicker so it would look like this. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, pull the belly in and fold as much as you can over your legs. Inhale, lift your chest up, or if your hands can stay down, look forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach your arms up, look up, and exhale, arms down. That's a sun salutation, half sun salutation. Now, those that may need a chair, you can use a chair here. And I'll just demo quickly this. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, bring your hands down. Taking a stretch. Inhale, lift your chest up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach your arms up. And exhale, arms down. So those are different types of using an option with the chair. If you were able to go a little bit deeper using a chair, you could turn the chair around, and when you fold over, you can go lower to the chair. So that's a really good option as well. And then when you're looking up, you just look up, you try to straighten your spine, pull your belly in and pull your shoulders away from the ears, and then inhale, coming all the way up, looking up at your thumbs. Trying to, if this bothers your neck, you just look forward and arms down. So you're trying to link in those movements of sun salutations, breath and movement together. Okay, trying to link the two together. One breath. So even think in your breath, and we're going to work on a whole class, or at least part of a class, on breath, because breath is so critical to the practice. You inhale generally as the body or the movement is up. Generally, as you exhale, you're lowering the body down, okay, or taking a downward or forward type of motion. That's generally. Are there exceptions? As any good lawyer knows, yes, there's always exceptions, but that's generally the movement. Now, that's only a half sun salutation. We're going to add on to that because there's something called a chaturanga, a yogi push-up, but that's a little bit more technical and would probably take the whole remaining part and maybe not even fully for all the different variations that we can do with modifications. So I would say if you could start with a half sun salute, that would be the best. And if you all you'll get the replay, you can watch that again. And we can also put shortened clips on Facebook if you join me on Facebook, or maybe just shorten little clips that we can put on, or you know, I can write out in a resource guide for you. And those are coming as well for the different movements that we'll be doing and focus of each certain class. So that's one option. If we have a little more time, I can show a little bit another one that's very
sure. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's do one more then. Sure.
So another one is really good for the back. And forgive me, I know a few of you wrote in asking for specifically my lovely Linda friend asked about knee and hip issues. And absolutely, there's things that we will focus on specifically. So keep those questions coming in, because I'm building a whole list of items that really you all want to hear from or want to know about. So keep building that, okay? So they're coming. It's just really, this is more of an introductory type of work that we're doing here. Now, this is called cat and cow. And why am I putting a blanket down? If you have, and you can use a towel, you can use extra padding. If you have knee issues, it's good probably to pad the knees with something. And don't worry, I will show this with the chair option as well. What you want to do, you want to come to a tabletop position. You're bringing your knees right underneath your hips if you can. You're bringing your hand right underneath your shoulders. All right. So sometimes I often see people are leaning back, right? And if you have wrist issues, you may also want to take maybe a towel, or you can fold your mat over, creating a little shelf for the heel of your hand if you have sensitive wrists. Okay? So these are different adaptations or modifications you can take here. You want to separate your fingers as wide as possible, creating a nice solid base. And really think of your knuckle mounds, meaning where your hand or where the palm and the finger meet, those knuckle mounds, pressing down firmly, most firmly the index and the thumb area, pressing those areas down. Pull your shoulders away from the ears and keep your gaze slightly forward. Pull your belly slightly in, keeping a general navel reaching towards your spine. All right, pull the shoulders down. And on your inhale, try to use the breath here. Inhale, try to drop your chest any amount. And your chin comes forward, or your gaze forward, or even up to the sky. So you see how I'm starting to create this arch in my spine, or a movement of the front body down towards the floor. This is called cow pose, okay? Or just thinking of this as a front body stretch. Think of the tailbone tilting forward as much as you can. And then on your exhale, you're rounding your spine. I want you to think of separating the space between the shoulder blades as the chin tucks towards the chest. And think of the tailbone releasing down. Right? Think of the back body pressing up to the ceiling. Now you can keep the tops of the feet down, or if it helps, sometimes I like to say tuck the toes under when you're exhaling. It really helps get that rounding of the spine. And then inhale, move with your breath. When you complete your exhalation, you take another inhale. And this is really great for finding the extension and flexion of the spine. We want to create and keep the space between the vertebra of the spine active. And it feels really good. Like yoga should feel good. You should be saying to yourself, I have this teacher who often would say, yoga should feel good. And he would be doing his movements. And I was thinking, gosh, this sounds so corny. And it does, though. It feels good. If it doesn't feel good, it's not yoga, my friends. Right? So just going through a few of these, and just at your own pace. I still do this before every practice to warm my spine up. Now, if you would like to use the chair, that's also an option. So all my chair yoga friends, and I do this for the corporate yoga as well. So just turning the chair around, or you can be lower where the seat is. Your feet are right underneath your hips. You're about an arm distance away, or the hands can be a little, more forward of the shoulders here. All right, you can have a soft bend in the knees. And as you inhale, you're dropping the chest. You're still getting that sense of the chest coming forward. Press the palms into the chair. Gaze is up, feeling a nice arch of the spine. I feel a nice stretch here. I've had a little bit of an issue going on that in my practice that I've been doing some work on. And exhale, then same thing, round the spine, tuck the chin towards the chest. Oh, that feels so good, feeling a nice stretch as the tailbone drops down. And keep pulling the belly in, pull the shoulders away from the ears, and then inhale, drop the chest, find that arching of the spine. And exhale, rounding the spine. So these are options, using the chair or using the mat, on the mat, and using what feels good for you. So really just trying to find the movement that feels good in your body is yoga. That's what's yoga. You want it to feel good in both the body by using your breath to create the movement. So those are two good ones you can start with that are very common in most classes. I'm just watching our time. And I don't know, we could, if there's one more, or if we should be wrapping it up.
Well, I think well, let's stop here and continue hopefully soon. I know I'm going to see you in just a few days in California on Friday and Saturday. So we are planning to do something either live or recorded for everybody. It may be on Facebook or on a webinar, but our plan is to do something regular for everyone.
So that's it, folks. Just as Gustavo stated, one, I'm going to be in California. Yay!
Yes.
My home away from home. And two, we're going to be doing some more events. So this is really just the entree, the kind of the foreshadowing of future things to come, whether it's chair yoga, whether it's a beginner series, which we will do, whether it's restorative, the gentle, the yin yoga, the, really getting into deeper postures, whether it's powerful yoga. Some of you may be advanced practitioners, whether it's breath work, and there's many others that I'll be introducing that may be more core focused and, staying calm and centered during the holidays, different types of practices that really focus on certain body parts as well as mind and body, as all yoga is, linking those two together. So are so many physical healing properties. So please don't shy away from yoga. Expand yourselves. Be open to it because there's a lot more coming. And I really am so honored that you all came, and I hope you found this very helpful in starting your yoga practice.
Well, I found it very helpful because hopefully this is going to be my beginning with yoga. And when I see you in person, maybe that's going to be my first time.
Oh yes, Gustavo is going to become the yogi. The yogi.
Yeah, can't wait.
It's coming. I see it.
Well, thank you again, Michelle, and thank you everybody for logging in. And we'll see you soon. Make sure that you check on. We'll send you an email with the date for the next time, or check Michelle's Facebook page, which I will post as well. And we'll keep in touch. Okay. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone.